Good morning, Assemblyman.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Good. Glad to have you on. I know that you sent a letter out to the Congresswoman over Equifax. This whole Equifax issue is far bigger and underestimated than I think we all know. And part of it is, I spoke to somebody yesterday. I'm not going to tell you who, but someone close to me, and said, "Have you checked to see if you've been affected by the Equifax?" And I was told, no, because I've never opened a credit card up with them. People, I'm not sure everyone understands what Equifax is. And we can talk about that here. But Equifax, if you've ever had any loan or even filled out a bill for National Grid, Equifax has your information.
They have your information. They are one of the largest credit monitoring agencies in the entire country. And whether you have opened a credit card or whatever, this is impacting 143 million Americans.
Yeah.
8 million New Yorkers. People have had their most personal information stolen from them by criminals and their credit card information taken from them. So that is out there right now. And I'm starting to field calls from constituents that want something done about it and are concerned about what's happening and the lack of response that they're seeing from the company.
Lack of response. How about there's a few other issues here that I just think have to be talked about. I mean, how in the world can we not be up in arms over the fact that key executives at Equifax were able to sell off their stock before this story went public?
Well, I think the problem, too, is, as you're learning more and more as the news reports come out, is the lax oversight and the lack of regulation over these credit monitoring agencies like Equifax. They're not subject to the same kinds of regulations that many of the credit card companies or banks are. So one of the things that I've done, because I'm fielding so many calls on this, I've sent a letter to the Congresswoman. I've asked her to do two things because she really has been very silent on this issue, except for a very short Facebook post that she put up a little while ago. Basically, just asking her to say something about this beyond the 130 words that you put on Facebook. And do something. Do something. She sits on one of the most powerful committees, the Financial Services Committee in the House, and do something about this. What I'm finding, and when people call my office, I have two things that I'm telling them to do. One, file complaint with the state attorney general's office. They have a Consumer Protection Bureau that is responsible for overseeing these kinds of breaches, but also file complaints with the Federal Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And I think, what's most troubling for me in this breach and learning about how lax the regulations are over Equifax and the other credit monitoring companies is that the one agency that can do something about this, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, our current Congresswoman has voted to basically cripple this agency. This is the agency that we need right now to oversee what's happening and to make sure that we're going after companies like this that are putting our most personal data at risk.
I know she did come out and she did denounce it and talk about it, but you feel that not enough is being done. Not
enough is being done, and more has to be done. I guess the Financial Services Committee is going to have a hearing on October 3rd, which is great. But in the meantime, people want to hear what her plans are, what she plans to do based on her position on the Financial Services Committee. And people need to understand the connection between this data breach by Equifax and what her and other House members are trying to do by passing the Choice Act, which will essentially cripple the Consumer Protection Bureau, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which has returned millions of dollars to consumers because of companies' wrongdoing. And this is one of the largest breaches in the country's history. We need agencies like the CFPB to really go after Equifax and point out the lack of regulation and the lack of oversight that there is in some of these credit monitoring agencies.
And when you
don't cripple the agency that's going to help protect consumers.
In the beginning, when you signed up for this Equifax, they have a protection, an identity protection for everybody that you get it free for a year. But in the beginning, when you signed up, their terms of usage would take away your right to be involved in a class action lawsuit. Now, they've since come out and said, well, because of public pressure, that's not the case. But, somebody to look over this, I think is pretty important right now.
Well, thank God the Attorney General came out and said you cannot be doing that. Now they're pulling back because they want to take people's rights away, and people should have every rights available to them to go after Equifax for this terrible breach.
Yep. All right, we are out of time, unfortunately, but I'd like to later in the week talk to you again about this whole Dave Garland thing, this Patrick O'Brien story that broke really from a UC professor, which was quite interesting. We'll get to that maybe later in the week. But Anthony, as always, we appreciate your time. And the story on his letter, the complete letter, is up on our website at WIBX950.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bill.